Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Fucking no. Let's just pretend I have skills in this presentation area, shall we? Anyway. Good morning. It's been a bit of a week, and it's I think I find this pressure building all the time. Because I have been trying to write more, okay? I do write every day, okay? I write every day. I write thousands of words every day. It's not because I'm not going through the creative process, right? I still am inherently a writer. I write every day, habitually. I've got millions and millions of words, okay? They pour out of me every day. It's something that I find somewhat effortless, believe it or not. But I'm not producing, right? And it is a bit of a frustration. And I think that there's a broader problem here, which is that everyone's fucking stupid. And it's not, there's a few examples, right? Sorry, I'm stuttering a little bit. Just give me a sec. Let me have a drink. Let's refresh my thirst. Fascists on Twitter would think that's unbecoming of a lady. Fuck them. But it's, I think I sit there and it's I don't know whether to go back in time or sort of explain sort of what happened with early Twitter and what it was for me, okay, personally, as someone who is creative, right? I don't consider myself all that creative. I am smart and I am a writer, but I don't consider myself terribly creative. I do the work, right? It's when Twitter first started. So Twitter started as kind of like a virtual water cooler for me, right? Because I was working at home on my own. I had young children, and Twitter particularly was just sort of head in a jar stuff, okay? And same thing with the internet. Like the internet of the 90s, you would log on. There was a little bit of friction getting on there, okay? So first of all, you had to know, you had to do more than like lick Windows to get on there for a start. So there was a little bit of friction in order to actually get online, even if it was an AOL CD. Before, you know, it was still, there was some, you had to do some work to get onto the internet. It needed to be a more active process. Okay, it needed to be something that was you chose to put on, you chose to engage with. And it's the same thing with like a movie or TV or anything like that. You'd physically have to get up, turn it on, and even with TV, you'd see what was on. You'd still have to decide, okay? There's still some sort of decision making. You weren't just sort of passive. I mean, some people were just passively, you know, letting the TV run in the background. But for the most part, it was an active thing, okay? It was something that you decided to do, decided to spend your time doing, and when you did it, you were present in it, okay? The internet was the same thing. So you'd log on, you'd actively go and you'd search stuff, okay? Now, you'd find, you'd land into your little, you know, you'd see where the clicks took you, okay? So you'd log on if you were anything like me. This was before search engines or anything really like that. Search engines were not algorithmic for a start. They weren't like contextual to the user. They were just directory listings. And you would sort of log on to either a chat app or a web forum or a website. You would just sort of see where your clicks took you. But there was still an active process. You were still a decision that you made to go and consume said content, okay? There wasn't necessarily anybody nudging you or sort of guiding your choices other than sort of, you know, obviously a directory listing or something like that. So if you went on and you were searching for something, when, you know, I was a teenager and I was like, I'm going to just do what teenagers do, search for my favorite celebrity. And then you would find a website that was a fan website, usually, because the artists themselves weren't actually online at that point. It was usually a fan web page or something like that. This is how early it was. It was before, like, artists even had website, like official websites. I was actually one of the people who drove that specific thing, got people online in the early days. You'll be quite amused by my portfolio now, which is to look at those old websites. It's good fun. Then that's not online. Like I don't disclose that kind of thing. But trust me, if you were messaging a webmaster in the early days, it was probably me. Okay, so there's that. And so I was sort of driving that in the early days. But usually, what you'd do is you would sit down and you would sort of search for a website, and one of those would have submitted it to a directory. Okay, so the discovery process for content, there was still an active role that you played as the user. So you would go in, you'd search, you'd find a website that had submitted themselves to that engine, but that would then have, usually often they'd be kind of a leader in the space, so they'd kind of be a portal for other websites around that topic. Okay, so you'd have, you land on one website that had taken, like I said, had taken the time to submit to a directory, but they'd usually have a web ring or a set of links or something for similar websites, and you would sort of involve with that. If there was a web forum, if there was a forum or some other kind of community attached, you'd sort of organically find that, and then eventually, you know, you'd get there, okay? Now, obviously, I would have advocated for that celebrity to own and run that fan forum, because that would give them a degree of control over that experience and what was said and all that, and moderate the forum and all that sort of stuff. I was pretty instrumental in a lot of that kind of thinking, okay? This was something that seems obvious now, was not obvious back then. This was like innovative thinking, okay? And sort of telling them to get online. Like most artists were still very much beholden to their labels. Their labels didn't want the internet to sort of, they were very threatened by the internet in the early days. And a lot of them and their websites, they would run sub-pages off of, like, say, Warner Music or anything like that. The studios would want, and labels would want to run the website on behalf of the artist, but it would just be like shitty brochureware, okay? Or like a fan club mailing address, okay? So it was still very much offline, join our street team, we'll send you a kit of stuff that you can give away, stickers when the album's out, that kind of stuff, okay? It was still very, very, very early days. This was late 90s, okay? No, this was not even late 90s. This was early noughts. This is how quickly a lot of this stuff has evolved, okay, and how our brains have not caught up with it. But even before, this was like a pre-social media time. I sound ancient when I talk about it, but this was just how it was, right? People played a more active role. So first off, they would take the time to log on. They'd get online. They would, they'd search. Then, the average user journey would be, I can only be online for a couple of hours a day maximum. If you've got parents, then definitely it was only a couple of hours a day. If you were really lucky and had parents that would let you hog the phone line, or you were like a rich kid and had your own phone line, then obviously you were on it all the time. But it was something that you turned on, you engaged with, and then you turned off and you went back to your normal life. Okay, that was something that has shifted. And also no one was really curating your experience. Like, yes, there were human interface, interaction designers and that sort of stuff. Those have always been there, okay? So, but that was an early part of the internet. Like, user experience really wasn't something that had applied to websites up until, well, it wasn't really a discipline per se till, like, I didn't even really use the service or job title until mid 2000s, like at the earliest. Like, it was not something that was, yes, of course, software engineers did do interface design and that sort of stuff, but user experience was not at the forefront of anything until much later. Okay. A lot of the older web was kind of more of a free-for-all. It was more creative. You would learn HTML, but you'd have to learn to work within those constraints. Like, it was a lot of fun. Like spacer.gif, if you know anything about spacer.gif and resolutions and having to do cross-browser stuff, like early on, it was a lot of pain. And that's why any modern web coder can go fuck themselves, telling me that it's like, you did not go through that. You don't understand. It's like, you have it so easy now. You have pretty much no constraints compared to the kind of constraints that people were working on. That's why when people mock old web designs, it's like, yeah, you didn't have the constraints. Try doing a website in Word 97 and see how you go, fuckwit. Like, they're just so used to having like GIFs on their phone that they just search for, not having to create those GIFs and deal with the file size and all of those things and load speed and all that sort of stuff. So there's all these constraints. So it was more of and I'm saying that because it was a more active process. It was not a passive process. And so I got online, and it was a creative exercise in terms of I'd write ideas, I'd write stream of consciousness, I'd get into debates, I'd have good faith conversations, like the flame wars. Even when you got into like a flame war, there was still a good-natured, there was still something good-natured about it. It was still more like a game of tennis. You show up to the court, you played your match, and what was on the court stayed on the court. You shook hands at the end, and you sort of parted ways. You didn't really the people that held long-term grudges were rare, okay? It was usually, especially in a communities were usually self-moderating and would resolve it, and it would get boring, and, every so often someone would jump into the forum and bump an old thread and it would start all over again, but generally people would just go, fucking, I'm so over this shit. Like, every forum had its thread, okay, or it's hot points of issues that would, if you everyone had their sore points that the community would just continue to erupt over. Like, over time, that was just the thing, right? There's always these factions, right? And 9/11 really kind of broke that apart. That became a divisive thing. And one of the famous things that actually happened was the Church of Scientology actually were one of the early groups to exploit that kind of stuff in web forums and to break apart web forums through all of these techniques, right? That like forum sliding and division and all that sort of stuff, like poking, trying to find a vulnerability in a platform and then cause a rift so that community would split open. That was a Church of Scientology tactic very early. Okay. But obviously on social media, people just got better and better and better and better at that. That became measurable and refined, and it became part of the core functionality of the website. In the case of Twitter, Twitter is a bully machine. Okay, it is effectively a bullying machine where, as funny as it is to bully public figures and all of that sort of stuff, it basically just became a machine for harassment. And that was not always the case. The early days, it was not so much like that, but it was not unforeseeable that this is where it would end up without any kind of guardrails around it. Okay. But the thing that frustrates me is that there's nowhere to really create anything anymore or put anything creative anymore. And that's what I've been going through lately with having all of this stuff written, all of this stuff produced. It's sort of at the stage, like there's a part of the creative process that is private, okay? That's why AI can't be art because, or social media isn't really art, okay? It's content. And I've talked about the difference between art and content at length before. But the thing about content is that content, it's something that is out loud in public for consumption. Now, some of it may have an artistic process before that, but the algorithm intervenes early in that process if you're not careful. And I've talked about that before, where if you're doing keyword research before you do your writing, it's not art, it's content, okay? If you are doing, using Buzzsprout to see what's trending so you can write about it, yes, it might be a writing prompt. Fair enough. That's different, right? There's nuance to this, but I'm just generally saying if you're thinking about the sale or the views or the clicks or anything like that, it's not art. It is content, okay? Because art and content are very much about the goal. Art is about a process. Art is about a whole bunch of other things that content is not. And that's why I get shitty when people call my shit content. It's like, no, I'm just doing my art and it's out loud because that's what I've always done. Like if people think my tweets are content, like how shit do you think my art is? It's like most of I use Twitter to get the brown out. Right, to quote Ben Folds, to get the, let the brown water out before the clear water runs. It gets me into flow. I write a thread. I go, oh, yeah, is there anything here? And that used to work. And that's the thing that I'm sort of getting to here about everyone being fucking stupid and annoying all the time, that it's actually starting to infect my process. And that's what I find annoying because I'm, obviously that's the shift I've noticed is that I used to benefit from riffing on Twitter, just writing a thing, talking the shit, whatever, seeing if an idea's there, because I'd get some feedback and there's some banter and there'd be a gem of a thought or something that I would go away and then write the thing, okay? I do find it funny that people think that Twitter is like and even this isn't my fucking art or my content. I'm a writer. Okay. And it's like, you don't see most of my art because I don't know where to put it because it's just ruined. The whole process is ruined by this bully factory of stupid people who and I'll give you a couple of examples, like my writing process. Like I write a lot of jokes, right? A lot of comedy. A lot of humor pieces and stuff like that. A lot of it is at the moment kind of bits of rants that are kind of finding their way into the book where it's like kind of funny, but it's not fully formed. Okay. Sometimes I'll put an idea out there and see if there's like feedback or whatever. Okay. Like there's none of that anymore. Like none of that. There's nothing constructive that comes from putting your thoughts out online anymore early in the process. Okay, now you shouldn't be sharing out loud anymore. I've said this before. I do because it's out of habit, but I still, if I think of a good joke and it's fully formed, it doesn't make it online. Okay, if I think of something good, it doesn't make it online yet. If I have an early idea that might be something, I'll put it on there. If I'm talking shit, I'll put it on there, and it might spark something. Okay, but my finished stuff is no longer being put online. Okay, because first of all, it'll get stolen. So first of all, if it's a good joke, because I don't have the engagement or platform that I used to, people just take it. Okay, people just take it and use it in their content because they're content creators. Content creators steal from artists. Okay. And I've had that happen over the years. And again, that doesn't bother me. I've always got too many ideas, go for it. Okay. And that's always been my position. My position has always been just say whatever, work out loud. If someone else has a great idea off the top of like this riff as well, go for it. Go create. Do what you got to do. Okay. It doesn't bother me. I have too many thoughts, too many ideas. I have more than I can handle in one lifetime. Okay. So I'm not threatened by that. That's not necessarily, that's not my focus. Okay. I don't have a scarcity mindset when it comes to these things. I'm just finding it really fucking frustrating. But I used to be able to put that out there, put an unformed thought and sort of riff back and forth and come out with something better. Go away, write something that was good, and sort of let it sit in the figurative drawer and sit on it and, decide what the next part of the process was. Whereas now, it seems to be infecting my process completely, which is that when I write a joke, like I sat down the other day, I've sat down to write I write every day, but there was a couple of good ones. Okay. So I started this rant about Uber Eats. Okay. So every so often, can't be bothered, I'll order the boys McDonald's. They're teenagers, they want McDonald's, I'll just order McDonald's. But it's gotten to a point with Uber Eats where every time we order McDonald's at Uber Eats, the order is wrong. So we either get the wrong order or we get something missing, or it's just a habitual thing. Like I cannot actually think of the last time we've ordered McDonald's on Uber Eats for the boys and it not have a major part of it missing. Okay. It arrives cold, all of the things that we're talking about with Uber Eats. Okay. And so I wrote a humorous piece about that. Paul and I we're bantering because one thing you need to understand is that my husband's not a banter person. He's not a talker. It's not something that, we will talk a lot about stuff, but he's not a good source of banter. And I'm someone who thrives a lot on brainstorming and banter and riffing and that sort of, stuff. So it's why I do this. It's why I sort of tweet. It's why I kind of get stuck in my own head, right? And this sort of thing, this stream of consciousness is the same thing where I'll just talk it through, see if there's any gems there, sit down, write it if there is, okay? So it forms it's the beginning of my creative process. It's not my creative process per se. It's such a small part of it, okay? And I work out loud. I've always said, because bad ideas can become good ideas and, wrong ideas refined can become great ideas. That's part of the process, is making mistakes and being open to feedback and all that sort of stuff. That is what creativity is. And this is where people's brains have just melted so severely that people don't even understand that anymore. They think that what you're putting out is finished. They think that what you're putting out, like a Twitter account that, imagine being a person who steals tweets. Like, how uncreative do you have to be to steal tweets? Like, how sad is that? Because tweets for me were always just kind of a fleeting thing where I could sort of capture my fleeting thoughts, get some interactive stuff, and then move on with my day, right? That was always how it was, sort of water cooler shit, right? And it still is. But now, I started this thing about Uber Eats, which was Paul and I started talking about that, and I was just joking about how 2 years ago, they asked you, do you want it hot, which is, the priority fee where they charge you another $3 for it to come straight to you rather than and I was like, well, that's the do you want it hot charge. And then basically I sort of started talking about how basically it's now a conspiracy between McDonald's and Uber Eats so that Uber Eats can double charge you for delivery. So when they get an order wrong, okay, so I'm still working through this premise. This is how I write. So I'm working through the premise, which was that when they get the order wrong, they refund you the amount for the food. They don't refund you the delivery fee. So if I ordered like a set of nuggets and my son only eats nuggets, okay, it's not like we can work around that shit because he's autistic. He only eats nuggets. I have to then order nuggets again at the same fee. So you get the service fee, the delivery fee. And so I started joking about how this was a conspiracy between Uber Eats and McDonald's to nudge you and normalize you having to charge more or having to pay more to get your full order. And so I went off on a kind of thing there where, careful, their phone's listening and sort of nicely contained rant about that and where I think these things are going with a bit of hyperbole attached. Okay. And then I wrote it and I sat down and I was like, and it was a draft. And I sat there and I didn't realize just how infected my brain and creativity was by the internet. Because I sat there and I thought, if I put this online, there'll be a comment that mentions about the fact that we order home delivery with Uber Eats and how expensive it is and how it's like fucking exploited. Or that I'm ordering McDonald's for my kids. Or that like some essay from a man, always a man, it's always a man that does this, an essay from a man stating the obvious about how if I'd gone to the McDonald's, I could have checked it at the counter and seen that they'd got, no shit! That's my internet experience now. It used to be, here's a self-contained piece of writing that is humorous in nature, that is meant to be a self-contained piece of humour where there's a little suspension of disbelief, but it is a commentary on the gouging that Uber Eats does and where tech is heading. And I'm not publishing this shit. I don't need the grief. This is and that's the thing. And then I just go, fuck it. I've written it. I won't do second draft or get it to a polished point because I go, there's no point putting that on the internet because what I'm going to get is a bunch of fuckwits having something to say about it. And they're not even going to be intelligent. Like I can handle intelligent conversations. I can handle comments. It's been on the internet long enough to understand, to be able to take that shit. I don't give a fuck, okay? But the fact that there is zero of that anymore, nothing. There is nothing like that is worth even engaging with anymore. And even with people that I know or follow, I've decided now I'm zero tolerance on this shit. And again, I had the same thing happen yesterday where I started to write a thing about Adobe. Again, commentator on the internet, professional designer of 20 years. Okay. Talking about Adobe and how I've been an Adobe customer for, I've been a customer for 20 years, but I've been using Photoshop for 30 plus years, since the beginning. On a Mac Classic, I've been using Photoshop, okay? For that long, that's how long I have used Adobe products. And professional designer, owned an agency, I have a Creative Cloud subscription. Nothing controversial, nothing. But of course, guess what? So my main point was that they use dark patterns. So the FTC in the United States have sort of started to crack down on Adobe and their dark UX and their dark patterns. You can't cancel. They lock you into a yearly fee. And I went through that with Adobe stock where I clicked on the trial by mistake, didn't check. I was just in the middle of editing a video and I wanted a titles template or something and I licensed it. And I hit the trial and it locked me into a yearly subscription where I got 10 credits a month. Now, that used to roll over as far as I remember. Those credits used to roll over, but they've actually made it now so that you are locked into a yearly thing. And when you get your credit, a yearly subscription, and when you get your credits, they accumulate, but only for the life of the plan. So if you go to cancel that stock subscription, which I went to do, they not only charge you a cancellation fee, pro rata for the months that you owe. They make you pay for that year. You lose your credits that you've paid for. So they basically get free money. You either cancel, and there's a small window in which it rolls over to the next year. So they keep trapping you, right? They keep trapping you into this yearly subscription and making you pay. And I'm going to be doing a complaint about that. So I started writing about that on Twitter. And then someone's like, you pay for fucking Adobe? I haven't paid for that for years. I only use it for commercial work. I'm a designer. I've had multi-seat fucking Adobe licenses for all of my career. What does that have to do with what I'm fucking saying? You can just not say stuff. And it's just, again, and if you've had an interaction with me where I am like rude, this is just constantly, I'm just out here all fucking day with people who are retarded on the internet all the time, and they are deliberately obtuse. Their only reference point is, I don't get it. I don't use it. I don't care. Why don't you do something I'm interested in? Where's my content? I need content. That shit. Okay? I'm so fucking sick of this stupidity. And I understand some of that is about the culture that has been curated on the Everything app. Okay? I understand that. The biggest retards are on X now. Okay? People have brain rot. And I'm using retard. I don't like it, but I'm going to because it's contextual and you know what I'm talking about. Okay? Because that's something that is on purpose or a mental illness. But what it's done is it has infected my creative process. So what tech is doing, not content with stealing everything from us, okay? Not content with harvesting all our content, not content with fucking making everything like algorithmically based and the dumbest motherfuckers on the planet and window lickers being the fucking, most successful creatives on the planet, okay, for stealing other people's fucking hard-earned jokes. But it's infecting our process as well, which is that, and again, I understand that it's partially the fact that I need to, touch grass, so to speak. But again, when you're talking about someone who's had a 30-year career in this stuff, the shift is recent. Like this shift is recent, which is that you literally, it's not even about creating, because there used to at least be a vehicle for you to create online, okay? You could go somewhere and you could talk on a forum or you could talk somewhere. It doesn't matter where you post anymore. Brain rot has infected every fucking part of every corner of the internet, and it's somehow my problem. And it's also just infecting my thoughts at this point. And that was the takeaway for me the other day, where I was sitting there, and it was like, I wrote these first drafts of things that are funny rants that they're hyperbolic, and they are obvious humor pieces, and I wrote them. And they're going to sit in the virtual filing cabinet like every other fucking thing I write, because everything that I publish, you've got some fuckwit going, actually, McDonald's is bad. No shit. That was not the point. You shouldn't use Uber Eats then. Not the point. That is the whole problem that I've got right now. And nobody is taking any fucking personal responsibility for this. They're making it my fucking problem, and it pisses me off because it's not my problem, because I am creative and I'm still doing it, but there's nowhere to put anything anymore, because even if I compiled it into a book, it'd be fucking, no one's going to read it because they can't be bothered reading anything. There's no point doing anything. And if you make a fucking anything that's published, it's going to get scraped by AI. And then you're going to get some AI dickhead that thinks that he's a writer now because he's copied and pasted your fucking shit using a prompt. And it's like, what the fuck has happened to this thing? It used to be creative. It used to be active. Now it's just, the drool that comes out of everyone's fucking, I just visualize drool out of everyone's faces 24/7 went in every part of my reply. It's like, that's not mine. I don't like it. That's how I see the internet now. Like that. That's all day. And I apologize to the people with cerebral palsy. You're smart. I'm doing it as a fucking joke, okay, to make a point about people who are just grunting in everyone else's direction, and they take no fucking responsibility for the fact that they're absolutely the laziest, stupidest fuckers on the planet. And it's like, I don't know what to do about this, because again, it's like, you can't, what am I going to do? Legislate being stupid on the internet. It's like, what can I do? Just, oh my God, why are people so fucking stupid now? And again, it's a rhetorical question. I know. I've read the studies. It's like, for fuck's sake. You know, like, and like, the real kicker is AI guys turning around and pretending that AI is art. And it's like, no, it's not. If you're using AI to write, you're a bad writer. If you think it's good, you are a shit writer. You write content. You write crap. Okay? If you're a writer that uses AI, you were never a good writer. You write slop. You've either written slop for like your career, which is like as a copywriter for fucking corporations. You're not a writer. You write slop. Or, you know, you're bad at it. Okay? It's not writing. It's slop. Everything is fucking slop. Brains are slop. Fucking, you know, the bar is so fucking low now. The bar is so low. Like, hey, I'm going to share a link. You should read that before you comment. Hey, I wrote something. You should read it before I fucking have to, you have to irate me with your fucking thoughts. It's like, I'm just blocking everyone now. I don't give a fuck. This is not what I signed up for, like, in terms of like, and do you know how horrible and how great the original internet was? How I spent, like I said, I've spent most of my career selling this fucking thing to artists. My whole business was about getting artists online so they could connect with their communities. And at some point, they all said, fuck that shit, because the average user made it so fucking stupid, poisonous, lazy, revolting. This is the end result of fucking every cancel fuck, nitpicking everything, every fucking Nazi destroying every forum. This culture wars has infected every fucking part of the internet, and no one can have any fucking fun anymore. Nobody can create. So even those who do carve a space for themselves, they've got to worry about fucking SEO, which is slop. They've got to worry about AI scraping, which is slop. They've got to fucking go to a stock library. Fucking Adobe stock. They were selling me AI-generated stock for a credit. When I found a piece of art that was actually fucking usable, they wanted 67 fucking stock credits. That's $70. I would just go and commission that and pay that. Oh, well, I'd pay more than that to commission it. I wouldn't pay that minimum wage. But I'm saying the artist doesn't see all of that. The artist sees probably 30% of that. Adobe is selling you AI slop that it passes off as stock. That people, like 10 years ago, it was actually something, even though stock is slop anyway, generally that was a race to the bottom. But you used to be able to go to Getty Images and at least pay an exclusive kind of thing to be able to get a half-decent fucking piece of artwork for a blog post. Now I have to commission art for a fucking blog post, which is fine. That's what I'm going to do. If you're an artist and an illustrator or whatever and want to fucking illustrate around my fucking shit, we can figure something out. Because I'm just done with this fucking bullshit. And it's like, if I can, right? Because it has infected every part of the process. This is content brain. This is where fucking dipshits go and go, this is, they have no actual fucking like beliefs about anything. Like you think You think Joe Rogan or Konstantin Kisin or any of those fucking people have any actual fucking beliefs? They don't. They know what fucking sells. They say the thing, they get the money, they get the clicks, and because they get the clicks, people think they know what they're talking about. When really they are the absolute eye of the sun, what's the eye of the storm, middle of the fucking, whatever the core of the sun of the fucking problem, which is idiots everywhere who are expected, who are basically just televangelism and a fucking slot machine where when they don't get a result they want or an idea that they want, they fucking erupt and go, oh, I want to fucking do the culture wars again. Do the culture wars. Yell about feminists again. I need that. It's like, I don't like it. Women have nose rings. Oh no, this is, fuck it. Date a woman without nose rings and shut the fuck up. Women have tattoos. Date a woman without tattoos and shut the fuck up. Libertarians. Commenting on everyone else's business 24/7. Motherfuckers. Fuck off. Just let me write without infecting my thoughts. Because I always thought that I was sort of someone who, I always thought I was somewhat immune to it. That's the thing. That's why I thought, oh yeah, let's read, right? I hope my mic's probably peaked out quite a bit. I'm sorry if it has. But it makes it funnier as far as I'm it makes it funnier. I kind of, and also when you understand that I'm alone in a room, it's pretty funny. No, but I used to think that I've always considered myself somewhat immune from this, which is that I can separate online from offline and stuff. And in many ways, I'm sort of an example, despite my rants, I'm an example of, someone who's somewhat integrated, like a lot of this stuff, and I keep proportion because I understand sort of how it works in the back end and all that sort of stuff. And obviously I know it really well and inside out, and I know what's true, what's not. I work hard on that sort of stuff, right? And I'm self-aware of my own, all those sorts of things. I thought that I was somewhat immune to this, but this last week, and it has just gotten worse. It has gotten objectively worse, where it's not even that and this isn't like a 2015, you can't even joke anymore, right, thing. It's not even that. Like, that was just, regardless of what you have to say about like woke shit, right? That criticism, well, was always bad faith, but at least it came from somewhere, okay? At least it came from a place of like genuine critique. Even if you didn't agree with the critique, like that it was racist or whatever, or you didn't agree with it, it came from a place that was informed, or at least had some charity. You could be charitable about it, okay? Now it is just a swarm of morons demanding that you say what they want you to say. And I imagine those with large Patreon audiences have it way worse. I imagine that there are people where they think that because they give you a few bucks a month that they own you now. Lollipop, yum. That shit. And it's like, I'm not doing that shit. Fuck off. My process is my process. And I would paywall my stuff. But I don't want to contribute to the problem. This is the problem that we've got. And it's like, because people just, even people think that because they've given you $5 or whatever, that you're just going to say what they like. And the second you don't say something that they want, they withdraw their money. And it's like, well, you're a fucking child. Also, you're an idiot because that's not what I said. And again, it's like even people who followed, this is like people who followed me for like ever, where I have always talked about the same 4 or 5 things, okay? 3 things, if 5 if I'm being generous. Usually if there's a trending thing, there's a joke, but otherwise I focus pretty heavily on my lane. And for someone to turn around and say, I only use Photoshop for commercial purposes, and it's like, you've been following me forever. How do you not know I'm a fucking designer that had an agency and I keep those licenses? I have said it so many. It's like, what the fuck? And it's like, this isn't a don't you know who I am situation. This is a bare minimum understanding of who I am. Like, why do you follow me? Because I use these things for commercial purposes. You morons. It's like, oh my God. But it's like, and at baseline, it's like I have to kind of, it used to be that people knew who you were too, right? And again, it's just, but they just have no memory. Like it's a legit memory loss. People who have followed, I remember everything. Like if you show up here, for the most part, I'll remember who you are. If we've interacted, I'll remember you, or need a slight reminder. I'll know if I don't know you, and I'll know if you've interacted before, okay? I'm pretty good at remembering who's who, and like, you know, whatever. I'll give strangers shit, and if they pass the test, then I'll be nice to them next time, because I just assume everyone is a shithead now. That's what it does. It infects communities. It infects the chat. It infects everything. Someone shows up and starts going, "What are you talking about?" an hour into a stream on the chat. And I go, how am I supposed to answer this shit? What's wrong with you? Are you 3? Sit down and watch and listen. And if you don't like it, leave. I don't see the point. If you've got something nice to say, or you've got something constructive to say, and when I say constructive, I mean not write an essay in my chat explaining something because I'm being funny and exaggerating. Like there's going to be people here who watch this and think I'm actually upset and ranting and stuff. So no, I'm engaging in a rant. I'm having fun with it. I'm doing a bit of rant comic shit, seeing what lands. It's like, I'm fine. But fucking hell, it is so frustrating. And I'm sure that people feel the same way. And it's like, do I build even if I tried to build a community that did this, okay, that allowed for free expression. I've looked into it, okay? I'm not an idiot. I've looked into these things. I've looked into building. I'm someone who's, if I see a gap in the market and it's viable, I can build it. It's not, I have, like I said, more ideas than I can handle. And if I think it might be a good MVP, which I've had several, I might be able to get it funded or whatever. But you can't fund that shit because it gets infected by dumb fucks who expect everything like served to them on a platter. Like, there's just this cohort of people who are so used to not having to make eye contact, not having to they make no physical contact. They've never had to be present in their environment, describe their environment, sit there. They've never actually gotten into a state of flow. They have never, they've never kind of, like I hit the slipstream when I'm ranting, which is quite fun. Like this actually does help me get into it. Like it gets my cortisol going. And also with ADHD, like a big part of it is regulating and promoting dopamine and cortisol and getting those things flowing. That's part of getting into the flow state. Like that's a big part of the reason why ADHD people struggle to get stuff done, is because we struggle to get out of in and out of flow and out. So once you're in, it is really fucking annoying to get pulled out, especially if you're autistic as well. Being pulled out of your flow is a fucking like that, right? So what's happening with the internet is that you're putting stuff out into the world, okay? And in good faith, like I just, riffing or whatever. On one hand, it's like people think you're crazy, first of all. Like they go, oh, that's an honest person. They're obviously either being paid by whatever tinfoil hat fucking thing I've got. They can't possibly just be an honest person who's not motivated by clicks and money and thinks it's all bullshit. And they're not famous, so they can't just be a normal person. There needs to be some sinister motive. I need to be either paid by someone or trying to get engagement or trolling, and it's like, no, it's a joke. It takes 3 seconds out of my day to write something, 10 if I'm generous. If I really put thought into it, 10 seconds, okay? And if I'm writing a sort of thread or whatever, it's just some shower thoughts and I move on with my day. It takes fucking at maximum of 30 seconds, okay? It's just a creative thought. And then sometimes I used to go back over my tweets and see if there was anything there for the next day's writing or whatever, see if there's anything I wanted to develop. Streams fill that role now, like the way that I sort of meander and stuff. But, Sometimes you just hit gold. I just have a lot of ideas. I'm always writing, I'm always creating, and always thinking. So you put something out into the world and you go, and now there's someone there to just piss on it. Just shit all over it, piss on it, ruin it, fucking absolutely kill it. Absolute like boner killer for ideas. Anything online now. And it's just people who are they've got nothing on, but they also don't even know who you are. So people who follow you for years and then they go, what are you doing? Why are you talking about AI? I don't know, because I've been in tech for fucking 20 years. I don't know. I know stuff. Why? I'm not saying don't you know who I am. I don't expect that. I expect you to look at my fucking bio before opening your mouth. Or I expect you, having followed me for so many years, to have read one or two of my things. And if you haven't and you don't know who I am, then don't engage. And it's like, I expect the bar is so fucking low now. Do a minimum amount of thinking, a minimum amount of reading. Read a fucking thing before talking about it. You know, like, what the fuck? It's so fucking, it's actually embarrassing what happened to the internet. Like, I am, most of the day, I'm actually just legit embarrassed and pissed off that I had backed this thing. I left a perfectly great career based on a lie that this internet thing was a way to create and control your destiny and, run small businesses and all that sort of stuff. And there was a big fucking gotcha on the other side. And now I have to start as a baby lawyer in my 40s because I was ripped off. I'm embarrassed because I got fucking caught up in a fucking scam of 20 years. Right? That's embarrassing to me because this is not what I envisioned for the internet. And like, if people had followed my advice, which they did not, because said idiots think that fucking people who are famous are smart and people who are rich have some sort of great secret or intellect superior to like the people who actually know what the fuck they're talking about. And you've gone and worship false gods. And this is coming to fruition now. And I would say that we live in idiocracy, but guess what? The opening scenes in Idiocracy, people also willfully misunderstand because we do live in idiocracy. But you know why? A lack of eugenics. Like I said, I tweeted that this morning. I said, that's quite the slippery slope. Be careful about that. Okay? Idiocracy happens because of capitalism. Not because of poor people breeding, okay? Just be careful there. I know it was a commentary on capitalism generally, but I'm just saying, read your texts and understand your references before you open your fucking mouth about it. But anyway, I find it embarrassing that you can't engage in experimentation. You can't engage in sort of non-linear thinking because people think you're insane rather than just the fucking obvious thing, which is you're just experimenting and having non-linear thoughts, and that's a place to do it for fun, okay? And you're working out loud or whatever, right? And it's like, and then you've got people whose only community is online cults where they don't have to actually have any social skills at all, and that becomes everyone else's fucking problem. And it's like, no, just what are we going to do? Lock them all up. And it's like, all I can do is rant about it and just go, oh, well. But even if I tried to build a fucking community for, like, it would be attacked because it would be, like, it's not, you can't, well, first of all, you can't make enough money because it's not advertiser friendly. And guess what is advertiser friendly? Content. Okay? There's no real room for art anymore, like online, right? And you might think that, aside from sort of, anime drawers on DeviantArt, there's not really, I'm talking about art as a process, okay? Again, the literal among us will think that I'm talking about painting. I'm talking about art as a process, a creative process of which the internet has infected even my brain, where I can't get into a flow state. I can't get into a, even when it's not the internet's fault that I can't get into a flow state, because even when I do get into a flow state, hang on, that didn't make sense. I'm saying even when I do all of the things, all of the right things, like, log off, spend time outside, go with nature, have time, there's all these things that you do to create the conditions for the creative process, right, for creativity. And even if you do all of that, the dumb fucks are in here telling you, like, this is why would you write about Uber Eats? Why would you write about McDonald's? McDonald's, they're gonna think it's bad. Some dude's gonna show up and explain how they drive through. That's why they go to the drive through and completely. It's like that is just, how do you even logging? Can't fight that even when you log off. And at some point, you can't internalize other people's behavior as your fault. And that's the thing where it's like, at what point does this kind of behavior become unacceptable and rude? Because what you're doing is you're feeding the problem. If I sit there and take it and go, you know what? Oh, yeah, okay, that's just part of being online. Yes, it is. But it doesn't make it acceptable behavior. You can't just walk up to people, interrupt them, fucking sweep the shit off the desk in front of them and fuck up their writing process because you didn't like the colour of their hair or you didn't like something. Offline, that would be considered poor manners. And I would be allowed to be pissed off about it. That would be a trespass. That would be, and it's like, whereas here I'm expected to just go, let this shit infect my mind and my process and my art and my fucking, all of that stuff. Okay? And people go, well, that's just how it is. You can't change that. It's like, no, they shouldn't be fucking stupid. They don't have the right to do that. And it's like, but again, I don't know, I'm just ranting, obviously. The actual solution is like, you can't ban it, but you can actually encourage and implore people and shame people for behaving the way that they behave. And not normalize it. And that's the thing, is that it's just been so normalized to be an absolute dickhead that everyone think, well, first of all, if you've ever been to your average open mic night, you know that like good comedy is rare and actual good jokes is rare, and there's very few good comedians out there. There's a lot of people who are Rogan-verse fucking like bad joke writing motherfuckers. They'll always make money because they can just make a TikTok for other fuckwits, okay? But actual comedy and comedic talent is rare, okay? It's not funny. It's like stupid and like it's a dead end, okay? It's just like, at what point is it okay? Like, I don't understand how to get through this. Now again, the answer is, at the moment, you can't make your nothing that you do professionally to make a living can be creative. Like, that is where we're at. I'm at an impasse now where I'm not going to make money writing because no one's going to buy it, no one's going to read it, no one cares. And everyone thinks that my fucking early ideas and all that stuff is my content and my finished work and all of that sort of stuff. And there's no point unless I'm willing to be a shithead to go viral and all those sorts of things, and which I'm not, and be the antithesis of what I actually am as a person. Then I'm not going to make money doing it. That's just a fact. Okay. And I think that was the big lie, is that there was some compromised position where artists. It was a win-win. Like, that was the whole thing for me, which was like, that's what I sold. That's what I'm embarrassed about, which is that I brought in a bunch of really amazing artists and creative people, and I sold them hope for a win-win sort of situation where their art could be a sustainable business. And we're basically back to something worse than the big four labels. So we're back to something worse than the studios, and far worse. Because now, like, at least with, it's just worse, so much worse. Like, and I've talked about my other MVPs before, where I basically MVP'd a version like Spotify, except the only difference between my MVP and Spotify was that I was a label as well. So it was an independent label. The artists we only took 5%. So it was basically the artists took 95% of all stuff, and you could build community around it and all of that sort of stuff. You could build a community, you could release your music. We'd only take 5% of like merch and sales, and we were also an independent label. Okay. Now I came up against two things. One was male investors, male VCs who said, no one's ever going to stream MP3s. Someone said that to me, no one's ever going to stream MP3s. And also, no one's, and also that's what a male tech guru said to me. I'm not going to invest in your business because no one's going to stream music. Because this was this was when people would still download MP3s. The other limitation was the labels. So basically the model was that basically we came up against the hurdle of trying to get artists who were already signed, because I had a handful. Obviously I'd been working with musicians for some time, and a lot of them had record deals, right? So I was trying to get it so that at the time they hadn't gone fully digital, so they hadn't really it was only really iTunes, and that was the early days of iTunes. And they hadn't sort of, there was a window where they were starting to build their own platforms, if you remember, like Warner and Universal and all those places built their own online music stores and stuff, and they flopped, and then they just sort of went to Spotify. Spotify sold artists right up the river in terms of like what they did, because they were willing to be the label's bitch, and I wasn't. And that's where my MVP fell over, which was that it was a partnership deal where we gave them a cut of our cut, not even the artist. We gave them a cut of our cut if they were signed to that artist, and that wasn't enough for them. They wanted it all. They weren't content with some. They were content with all of it. And so that revenue stream became unviable, and then I couldn't get investors, and no one's going to stream MP3s, dear. And that was, I did that. And then Spotify came out a couple of years later, and but with none of the good stuff. Right. So I was think of a hybrid between sort of Patreon and Spotify, but it was a label as well. So we provided the services as well. So they could buy bolt-on services like, artist friendly, like insurance, connect with other people, find roadies, that sort of stuff, like just independent stuff, and build fan communities and stuff like that. That was my vision back then even. And it didn't work because it just went here. And it's really actually fucking embarrassing that it went here, because people had the chance to make it not go in this direction and they chose this one. And that's really fucking embarrassing, because that's one example of things that I've built over the years, but it was just, there was another one for comedians where you could figure out, there's one for comedians, there was one for all sorts of things. So comedians could check to see if someone else had a similar joke and that sort of stuff, and but fans could also follow comedians on tour and all that sort of stuff. But if you wanted to reference a certain bit, but you wanted to find out what special it was in, but you could reference it and you could share it and all that sort of stuff. And we'd figure out a way to monetize it with ads or something. I hadn't figured out that part yet, because at the time I thought ads, but obviously going the ad route is a bad idea now. So I would, if I had my time again, it would have been maybe a subscription by the comedian themselves, and their pro subscription sort of subsidized the rest as a promotional platform, as a business tool for comedians. That was something that I they could promote, organize, write, all of those things in that one app, right? So that was one that I had. So there's lots of these things that I've built over the years, MVPs for, and they just never got off the ground because they were not predatory towards the user. They were not. So when people talk about how, how did we end up here? It was a decision. At one point, it was a decision. Like the digital industry was a conscious decision by investors and by all of the various stakeholders in this industry to go in this direction. It was not an accident. It's like some of it, obviously, some had more power than others. There were some unintended consequences where designers weren't necessarily thinking about the ethics of things, and they, assumed the best. Like people like me who assumed everyone else was ethical, big mistake, and smart, and would do the right thing. And when presented with the choice to do the right thing, they would choose the right thing. That's naive. That's what I'm embarrassed about. I didn't realize that there'd be so many architects who just don't give a fuck about the user. And they didn't care about ethics, and they didn't care about anything other than this. And it's like, how, again, like I said, how do I can know how we got here, but I'm allowed to be mad about it. Because now you've got all these people, and this is the next phase of this fuckery, which is people appointing themselves as they've been experts for 3 years, and they're writing about this stuff, and getting audiences but they're not giving it historical context. They're just saying the right things. Because the zeitgeist has moved to be anti-tech bro, suddenly they're just anti-tech bro, and it's like, well, it's not that simple either. It's like there's history, and the people really are just memory holing all of this stuff and saying what's convenient and leaving bits out and saying what's convenient to them. And it's just very frustrating as somebody who was fucking there and built stuff. And I saw that this was a pattern of behavior, and it was a conscious designing of the internet to take away what the promise of the internet was. Like, that was a systematic thing. And for people to turn around and then, attack the messenger, right, is disheartening. And it's like, well, where do I write? What do I do now? I poured again, rhetorical, fellas. There's no question mark there. It's just, it's frustrating, because I sit there and it's like, well, is writing a private process now? I'm never going to get to that part of the art where it's shared, because it's either going to be scraped by AI or stolen or, probably mostly ignored, but, it needs to be worth my while. And it's like, obviously I always write for writing's sake, all that sort of stuff. Like I write a lot, but there is no incentive to do the next part, the great part. There's no incentive at all to develop ideas or riff on ideas or connect with people in any way. And I've come to the conclusion that your day job cannot be your passion. Because this is what happens. My passion was my day job for a long time because of the promise of the internet, and I was enabling that. But then I didn't realize that I was enabling this. I find it amazing how nobody reckons with their own role in stuff. Isn't it amazing how they watch Severance, and they watch these things, and you sit down and you talk about corporate dystopia and how, oh my gosh, that's so like my life. But no one is ever part of it. No one is ever responsible for it. You'll never see HR ladies going, you know what, I'm a bit of a shitty person for participating in this. No, they'll just invent buzzwords and fucking nothing statements. And like, isn't it funny how everyone's like, yeah, that's us. Like, I've often wondered this. Do billionaires, like children of billionaires and stuff, do the Murdochs watch Succession and go, huh, they got you? Like, do they do that at all? I've often wondered that. Like, do billionaires, like billions, do they watch that shit and go, yep, they got our number? Like, how do they watch TV about these things? Do they reflect, or is it always someone else? So people enjoy watching Succession because Murdoch is a straw man of sort of the ultimate evil media mogul. But no one looks at, like, their own role. Like, no one goes, oh, look, his corporate counsel there, she earns $1 million a year. Whoa, that's me. No, the HR ever, like The Office, they always, they empathise with, The Office is a really good example of that. especially like the UK office, where they all relate to the character, but they never go, oh, no one's ever David Brent. Have you noticed that? They're always Jim. They're never David Brent or Gareth. They're always the good guy, right? And I just find that bizarre, how people can just consume this like anti-corporate entertainment and not look at themselves and go, oh my God, I'm part of this, and quit or change it, or more, or worse, change it. They go, oh, that's Silicon Valley. That's so us. And it's like, yeah, but the takeaway from that was that he sold his soul, not. I don't understand how people are so like, the dissonance is just endlessly perplexing to me. How everyone is always, they can relate, but only to a certain level where they're not responsible. We're not collectively responsible for all of this behavior. It's the same thing with idiots. Like everyone else, maybe I'm an idiot. And I like, look, I'm self-aware. I know I like X particularly is not good. Like my relationship with Twitter is one of, I've said before, sunk costs and habit. Okay. I get that. I've been deleting 10K tweets a day to gradually like whittle the account down to nothing. So then I'll get rid of it. Right. And whatever. Okay. I'll keep it on the DL. And because of that, because I know I'm killing that account, I'm just sort of having fun with it. But, and I know that I know I need to be better because I came out of the snark blog movement. Like that's, a lot of this persona, I suppose, for lack of a better word, that is, where I pretend to be a lot louder and more outgoing and angrier and shit than I am, is for creative purposes, comes out of that, which was, being snarky and witty and all that sort of stuff. But now everyone's just being mean without the wit part. That's the thing that's lacking. It's like, well, they're just monkey see, monkey do, but they don't have the actual comedic prowess or the literacy level or anything. They missed the point. They're just mean now. And it's like being mean, but then being mean is funny. Like it's very confronting because some of the things that I laugh at are like the most directly mean things. Like a guy I follow on Twitter yesterday, like ScoMo's wife baked a cake to look like the Australian flag and he quote tweeted it and it just says it looks like shit. And like, that's just mean, but it made me laugh because again, the context of that, if that was me and I was posting a thing that I did, it would be a different power dynamic. People, they seem to have it's like, there's people who understand the power dynamics and, that's not flat. And those that think everything is flat and just being mean to everyone all of the time, no matter what, is an appropriate way to conduct yourself. Or being deliberately obtuse to troll people. Like there's someone, I've known this person for fucking years. And his whole shtick is being deliberately obtuse to troll people. And it's just, like, you just stop stroking it. It's not funny. I don't know what you get out of it, okay? And I'm not saying, and I'm part of that. And so part of that for me is to reckon with my own contribution to that because I came out of that, Perez Hilton, snarky, sort of gossip, Gawker kind of stuff. And I'm sort of a part of that cohort where I saw where that twisted on itself and people just decided to be nasty rather than any wit or anything behind it. It's the same thing with the flame wars, the internet flame wars between smart people who actually were well read and understood irony and understood jokes, understood all of those sorts of things, and also understood that there's an element of hyperbole in these things, in flame wars and stuff, okay? People who understood that stuff. There was the sort of social contract of the early internet, if you were. No one gives a fuck about the social contract anywhere, let alone the internet. But it's just now people are just mean all the time. So the difference between like me, I'm self-aware. I go, oh fuck, every day I'm like, I need to be better. I need to not say the joke. I need to try and restrain myself. And then I log on and it's like, fuck. And then someone says the stupidest shit ever and I go, ugh. You know, and I'm not perfect. I'm not sitting here going, everyone else is an idiot but me. You know, it's like, no, I can be like at my worst as well, and I battle that stuff as well. But at no point has anyone ever gone, you know what, that woman knows what she's talking about. She's been right a lot of the time. She's been around she's got a lot of experience. Also, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt because I've followed her for 10 years and she's been right most of the time. No, there's no object permanence at all. I am just, it doesn't matter. My previous stuff, nothing matters. It's just in that moment, arguing with me, like there's nothing. And it's just like, what's the point? There's no point. I'm just unfollowing everyone. And I'm disinfecting my fucking mentions. That's what I'm doing. And again, it's like, go nuts. I'll mute you. Go nuts. Do what you got to do. But I don't need to see it either. I don't need to put up with it because the takeaway is that it is infecting my creative process. Even when I log off, even when I do all of the fucking self-care things, all of the healthy things, all of the stuff, and I create the space, I'm sitting there in the quiet, in my thoughts, in flow state, and well, you shouldn't have ordered McDonald's. You should just go into the shop. Why are you paying fucking for Uber Eats? There's people that's exploitative. What are you doing? You're part of that starts to infect the whole thing. And it's like, holy shit. And I'm aware of it. I'm aware of it. Most people are not really consciously aware of how much of this internet bollocks and chatter and stuff has infected their brains. Like I'm consciously aware of it and I try to fucking circumvent it as much as I can because I know that I spend too much online because my career is on online shit. I should not swallow at that angle, so to speak. And it's like, and now you've just got actual Nazis waiting in the wings to fucking harass. It's like the bar is so fucking low now. Like at what point was like, it just drives me nuts. It's like the bar is so, I said this yesterday, I was like, the bar is just low now. So read a book, like any book, a pop-up book, who gives a fuck? Read a book, read an article, read something. Click on the link before you talk about it. You know, like be normal. Don't be creepy. No means no. What people do is none of your fucking business. How about that one? Think stuff through past the fucking first step. Don't steal from people. You know, don't sing hail in front of the US flag at a presidential inauguration. The bar is low. And it's like, holy crap, you know, and it's been a bit. And also, because there's also the other part, because I've lived so much of my life online, my creative life, right, and professional, particularly my professional life, a lot of like that stuff, selling this, it's legit embarrassing that I was part of this. And no one everyone, and again, it doesn't matter. No one cares. How many followers do you have on TikTok? Did you go viral yesterday? Then you don't matter. But like, it's like, well, no, I actually was quite influential in the formative years of the internet and like had all my shit stolen over the years and everyone else was taking credit for my work over the years. Like that's because I just do the work and I just, you know, I've always been fairly understated in my influence in that regard. But like, you know, people like Brian Solis and those sorts of guys sort of, you know, took a lot of the stuff, the early ramblings and like, you know, ran with it, right? But again, there's also that part of deleting it all, which is that now my record's gone on Twitter, first of all. So all of the 120,000 tweets, probably would have been 150 because I did a mass delete last year as well. That's 15 years of my tweets gone. Like they're gone. I don't exist anymore on there. And so, I mean, obviously I've got a backup and I'm going to like archive it and publish it somewhere else. But it's like, I've wasted 20 years of my life, well, 30 years of my life, 20 years professionally, backing this horse, and there's no record anymore. There's nothing. I don't exist. Do I exist if I'm not on the internet? Who am I without that? All I've ever done is written. and produced websites and done all of these intangible things. What have I done outside of that? Now, obviously, these are rhetorical, fellas. I've got life outside of that. But what do I do in the physical world? Obviously, I'll be a lawyer soon. But, even then, it's like these are just questions that you go through where it's like there is no room to create anything anymore. You can't just be a creative. And if you are, if you do get to some level of prominence, people are just waiting in the wings to destroy you and wreck your life because of something you said 15 years ago, or you're friends with someone, or you've, said something, or whatever the fuck. You've committed a crime. If you're a target, you're fucked. And it's like, again, and even then, even the people who love you are unforgiving for even the smallest fucking shit. And it's just like, where do you even begin? Can't go to an open mic because it's full of fucking idiots who want jokes about like trans people all the time. Again, it depends on the scene, but this is Perth, okay? It's like you got a room full of fucking real property managers and fucking tradies and stuff, It's not exactly the place where you go and do high art. Where do you go? Where do you write? Do you write a book? Okay, who's going to buy a physical book? Who's going to read a physical book now? Nobody. Other than like, how do you reach them? Online marketing? Oh, well, I've got to be fucking inflammatory or like buy ads or whatever to even get people to buy it, at which point you don't make any money because you've already sunk costs into printing the books. You get a publisher. Oh, okay, no, they only want someone who's already gone viral now. Okay, well, does it count? No, it has to have been like the last 6 months. Okay, then. But I can't grow my presence because I deleted all my tweets. Okay. What do I do? I'll just keep writing because that's all I know how to do. I just keep writing. Where do I put it? I don't know. I think there is actually, you can actually poison AI from now. Like, I'm going to put the shit on my website that and again, it's not about the AI as such. Like, whatever, technology is going to do what it does. But it's just the principle of the thing where like I've already had my life taken from me by these fucks. I don't want to give them anything else. It's not even about the AI. It's not even about being, because I've always been share and share alike. I'm open source in the way that I do everything. Like initially I've always said, like, make everything free. Make it open. People will support you if they appreciate you. I've always believed in the true fan stuff, whatever. But the problem with the true fan stuff is that now that is now culty and people don't even forgive you for not being a constant producer of like consistent output on the same thing. And so it is so rigid and it's hard to navigate. Okay. And I know this has just been a fucking rant and whinge fest, and it was meant to be just a rant and a hyperbole and all that sort of stuff. It's fine. I'm not asking for anyone's advice. Okay. Yeah, I do some Audible, but most, yeah. So, people do, but I'm also saying that one book purchase, as much as, again, and it's not that I'm ungrateful, like one patron is great. I appreciate everything. One book, great. But you can't live on one book sale when you consider that I've done thousands of hours of work on this thing. And it's like, and we're talking about we're talking about a decade's full of work. And again, the problem is capitalism, and like every bit helps, of course. Like it's not, those things are at odds with each other and that's what capitalism does, is that it positions you in a way that if I'm not making a living wage, that I'm somehow ungrateful for every little scrap that I do get. And I am grateful for everyone who watches or everyone who supports me or everyone who whatever. Like I appreciate that. Okay. It's not that I don't appreciate it. It's just that it used to have a net positive. Okay. It used to be, at least the interactions were net positive. You'd make new friends or you'd make connections or you'd network or whatever. But it has just become so noxious and unbearable that there is nothing to gain anymore from any of it. And any kind of small benefit is far outweighed by the horrible fire hose of fucking propaganda and harassment and nastiness and just everyone wanting everything for free. And every time you put something out, it either, like I said, being stolen or like or corrected, being corrected constantly. Like the other thing, political scientist, okay? Yes, I fell into tech, but my primary career that I gave up for this fucking hellscape, and yes, it led me to the tech law, so I'm grateful for my journey. However, it gave me a unique set of skills. You would think that tech would listen to me. I went, you know what? I understand politics better than you. Maybe this is not a good idea, guys. Maybe fascists are bad at art, but fascists are good at design. And I've heard about this before. Fascists are good at design, not art, because because design is the implementation of rules. That's what design is. Art doesn't have rules. Art is unstructured. It is a process. It is nonlinear. It is experimental. All those things. Can you then change it, develop it into having form and structure and all that stuff? Yes, but fascists are great at design because design is the enforcement of rules, okay? And that was an interesting and quite a profound thing that I read some time ago about how UX design as a discipline is inherently kind of a fascistic force on the internet, because what it does is Google, Facebook, they've tried to force art into a rigid structure, a set of rules to be enforced. And if you deviate from those rules, you get punished and penalised. Okay, so it's quite, when you think about the sort of the philosophical underpinnings or the how it intersects politically with design, you kind of understand how we got here. You know, this enforcement of rules, rigid enforcement of rules, concentration of power. And, seeing people as disposable and as identity groups and segments and market segments and all that sort of stuff. Like, I wish I'd thought about that some time ago. I wish I'd thought about that before, about this inherent fascism in UX design. It's an interesting thought, you know. And again, you say that, there's always that chance that some fuckwit's going to clip it and go, she thinks design is fascism. I don't know. Maybe the people who have been warning about Elon Musk's fucking, might have a point. Maybe the people who have been warning about the inherent fascism in this tech thing might have a point. And guess what? You could read some stuff that will back me up. Or you could just take my fucking word for it as an expert, not argue with me. That happened yesterday with fucking, oh my God. And again, I came so close to blocking this person because the level of obnoxiousness it took. American, of course. And I said, like, basically, given I hope the Australian government sees the position that we're in and sort of takes it as an opportunity to decouple a little bit from the US in terms of, because, we're quite, we're over a barrel a lot. Like, it's quite, the relationship between the US and Australia is quite coercive, right? We're kind of, and every government that we have is, on the back foot. They can't really do anything, right? And I hope, and American shows up and goes, oh, but all politicians are just bought in the end. I said, well, no, you don't. First of all, I'm friends with a lot of Australian politicians. They're not bad people. They're part of they're at the mercy of fucking capitalism like everyone else. And the US, it's more complicated than, geopolitics, especially with US hegemony, is a lot more complicated than you'd think, because we get Venezuela in a second, but they're not corrupt as such. It's just they do what they can do within we're in this system. And of course, Yank goes something about Australia. I said, you don't know anything about the Australian political system. Just knock it off. You don't know anything. And he goes, I do now. And he asks Grok about corruption in Australia and shows me Grok. And it's like, this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're obnoxious people who well, what is the point in learning anything or doing anything anymore? Because if there's one thing that I could pull rank on, it is Australian political system up against a Yank. No, they think they know. They know corruption because they know Australia because they just looked it up just then with Grok. And it's like, how that was just so fucking obnoxious. And they felt like that was not considered rude. I was the one considered rude because I called him out on it. And it's like, what has gone wrong here that I'm not allowed to fucking lose my cool over that when I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get an education, decades of hard work, and people don't even go, oh yeah, okay, you know more than me, fair enough. No, they have to argue. They just have to argue and argue and argue and argue and argue and insult and argue. And it's like, what's the point? You know, and it's like, again, there's no question mark there. I know what the point is. The point is to create anyway. But I'm just saying, it's just like a person I know put on a record independently. I told him I bought it. He said, oh, you're the one. Yeah. I'm sure that guy can't really live. He's not rolling in cash, is he? Maybe I should just lick lollipops on TikTok for a living. Anyway, again, the legal consulting and stuff will fund anything else. But I'm just saying, I'm not having a whinge, okay? There's musicians and artists and people like that who have poured their lives into this and don't have backup skills. I've got backup skills. I'm always fine. But it's just, I'm speaking for those people, on behalf of those people, using myself as a vehicle for that frustration. Okay, again, people being literal, thinking that I'm complaining just about me because it's all about everyone else thinks it's just me, and my perspective and only me. They're so literal that they don't realize that I could be speaking for lots of people at once based on observations and experience and all of that sort of stuff. Oh, no, it's just literally happening to me and I am mad about it and it needs to be fixed and I need help with my problem. No, I'm talking for people who can't talk about it or won't or whatever. But this problem is a big fucking problem. And if you're one of those people that does this and shows up in mentions and does actually and does that, I'm just going to block you. I don't care. On LinkedIn, I just delete them. I delete it and I don't even engage with it. Don't even give them the satisfaction of a block. I just delete it. Let you waste your time with your essay in the mentions that completely misses the point and I delete it. And everywhere else. I can't be bothered with people who won't even take the time to understand where someone's coming from, and they just assume that everyone's as dumb as they are and as dumb and as lazy as they are. And I've just had enough. And it makes me sad that the internet turned out like this because that's the opposite of what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a place to connect with like-minded people and create and engage in, creativity and a creative process. And now it's just absolutely the opposite of that. And that's why most of the musicians that I used to work with don't engage on social media anymore. Congratulations, everyone. Congratulations, fans. You scared them all off. They don't want to, there was a window there where you could have engaged with them. You could have made it good and welcoming and all that sort of stuff. But you made it so fucking horrible and acted weird and so stalkery and infected all of this shit with your weirdness that they're scared now. They're not using it. I know people who've disabled their Patreons. I know people they've gone, no, fuck it. I'm not doing this. I'm not using it. It's not worth it. It's like, well, congratulations, you robbed the internet of the only artists that were fucking made it worthwhile. And now you're just worshipping content creators who steal from everyone else. Congratulations. You are the antithesis of art. So anyway, we all are. So I'm going to, we'll figure it out. I'm just ranting. Don't take me literally because people do. I don't know why I could just beg people to not be stupid because then they'll go, what'd you call? You think you're better than me? That's the favourite thing. You think you're better than me? You think you're better than me? Yeah, I am. I earned it. Don't be lazy. I don't like it. What's this button? It's not giving me what I need. I don't like it. Scroll. Scroll. That's how most people, that's how I see my responses. Unless you're like a half decent person and stuff and you engage in good faith, like my mate here. Okay. But none of this fucking, they just, does my head in. People who argue with me on my chats is my favourite. It's like, this is not your show. You're not a guest. We're having a conversation here. You can either add to it, go and create a show where you comment on my stuff. Otherwise, shut the fuck up. You're not a guest on my show. Oh, so annoying. No, I'm so sick of dumbasses. Overpaid, dumb. The incentives are so upside down. Like every dumbass is paid way too much money to be dumb. And they're rewarded. They're incentivized at every turn to be a fucking idiot. But anyway, I'm done. I'm going to rant. How was it? An hour and 30. That's long enough. Be back on Thursday, hopefully with something a little more, little less ranty, but I was having fun. It's just been building for so long. And I resent it. I need to figure out how to get this brain shit, because it hasn't traditionally infected my writing process. Normally I can switch it off, but lately, because everything is so horrible and people do reach out and say, like, I value what you do and stuff, but it's getting fewer and further between because, like, people just they're just disengaging. And it's like, I used to get compliments and, people messaging me from, whatever and encouraging me, all that sort of stuff. And again, I don't necessarily need that. I'm good at self-validating. But at the same time, when you get nothing but negative and stupid and deliberate, it doesn't matter how many times I rephrase things, there's always someone who will just correct it wrongly or misunderstand it, or they'll say, I don't get it. What does that word mean? I don't know. Look it up. Just fucking look it up. But then when I say, hey, use Grok to look it up, guess what they do? They use Grok to argue with me about my own discipline, not look up what I meant, but argue. And it's like, you completely missed the fucking point. And it's like, you just, are you doing this on purpose? Are you doing this on purpose to just break me? And it's just like, this is not, we need a new way of doing this. And again, this isn't just X. Blue Sky is just as bad. I've been getting more threats on Blue Sky than I do on and more toxic shit on Blue Sky than I ever have on X. Even now, because on X, they just fucking ignore me. And that's fine with me. And I don't use keywords that attract them on the new account. I deliberately misspell things like Sig Heil so that they don't attract them, right? But then you get someone, again, this is Warren though, and this is not against you, Warren, but Warren's like, actually it's spelt Sig, and I was like, yes, I know, I deliberately misspelled that on purpose. And then everyone thinks I'm stupid because I'm trying not to attract them. So for fuck's sake. Does my head in. And then I get mad and everyone acts like I'm crazy. I'm not crazy, I'm normal. You don't get me crazy. I'm just pointing out normal shit. Like, people should read stuff and learn stuff and be more than like, I reckon that as soon as there's a phone where you can just lick the screen, people will. People will just go with that. Huh? Combine their two favourite hobbies, Lindo licking and fucking browsing and scrolling. Anyway, I'm going to go. I love you. Thank you for letting me get this off my chest. Thank you for your precious life seconds. I'll be back on Thursday. And take care. Thank you, Omega, and the other people that have been watching. I appreciate you. I'm fine. I am a vessel for others' frustration. I am talking in the collective you and the collective we. And this is what expression is. I am not a journalist or a diarist. I am not writing in my diary right now. I am expressing thoughts. Bye.